And welcome back, everyone, to another night with your host, Kill Jaden number one, for a special that I'll be doing every Sunday about comic books called the Geek Sunday Night. So it's kind of a shorter stream, but hey, we get to talk a little bit, have fun, talk about some of the rare comics I have, and anything y'all would like to input on in the chat as well. So if you have any questions or want to add something to it, more than free to do so. So tonight we're actually for the first night of this type of stream, we're going to be talking about one of my rare comics called Nova, issue number 1, The Man Called Nova. So basically, the comic itself, this is the first appearance of Nova himself, and as well as his origins. Basically, he's a high school student. He obtains powers from an elite Xandarian of the Nova Corps, and he obtains his powers because the elite is dying. Passes them on, doesn't know how to use them, learns to use them. He teams up with, not in this comic itself, but in later comics, he does actually team up with Guardians of the Galaxy, the Defenders, what other ones? Secret. Was it Secret Avengers? Actually, I have to look myself now. I think about it. Yep, Secret Avengers. And then he gets the ability to flight. Super strength, of course. Most of these type of guys get super strength from this type of stuff. And so yes, I mean it's not in itself. It's not a bad comic read. Again, it is a first appearance, so it is actually kind of rare and hard to find in decent condition. This one itself, actually, when I purchased it about 3 weeks ago, was rated at probably a 7, somewhere between a 7 and 8. So it's actually in really good condition. Got a good price on it too, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna lie about a comic that's that high of a grade. That's a pretty good price to get. So yeah, that's actually that's a little bit about this comic itself. Trying to think what else to add to this. Kind of doing trying to figure out how to do this type of stream a little bit better with this type of stuff. But so the other thing about this character as well, the new Nova, I should say, is called Richard Rider. He did obtain the Xandarian that he got his powers from was Roman Day. And it does, because it is an origin, it does take him a while to learn his powers, learn how to use them properly, and he does fight multiple different villains across multiple different comics, of course, obviously. So and it was I did read it. It was a pretty good read.
Your daddy.
I'm doing something right now, buddy. I'll talk to you back in a little bit. Okay?
I'm about to ask you something. I just can't defeat the bad guys.
Okay, well I'm doing something right now. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Okay. Go play your game.
Actually, I'm watching TV.
Oh, okay. You gotta love them.
I just can't defeat them. They always have shelter.
Okay, well I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, you gotta love them. So, as I was saying, this comic itself was released in 1976. So I would say if you can definitely find this copy or this issue, give it a good read. Hey there, Tommy Kinch too. How you doing tonight, my friend? Hope your night's been going really well for you. Talking about some comic books tonight. For the first stream for this evening. Talk about the Man Called Nova, issue number 1. But if you have anything to add, you'd be more than welcome to. So anyway, to this issue itself, yeah. I mean, this copy itself is actually in really good condition. Like as I said, somewhere between a 7 and 8. So Oh, no worries, dude. No worries. I got you. Trust me. I can understand that. As I was saying, if you missed out what I said, we're talking about issue number 1 of The Man Called Nova, first appearance. It's between a 7 and 8 high grade. So doing a Sunday night stream every Sunday now, where I'll be talking about some of my rare comics I got, first appearances. So this is the first one for this series. So if you do have anything to add, my friend, be more than welcome to ask. If you have any questions about the comic itself, or you have anything to add, or grading wise, I'd be more than welcome to help with that. So yeah, I picked this one about 3 weeks ago from a comic book store about 2 or 3 towns away. I have never bought comics before, or know about it well. It's something. I do it as a hobby when I buy these. They're more of an investment in all reality, but a hobby as well. Something you could sit on. I mean, depending on the comics you get, Key Comics are where it's at. I have a comic book store directly next to me. I would definitely say, I mean, if it's something, if you're interested, especially if you watch like the Marvel movies and stuff like that, or DC, I'd recommend Marvel myself. I'm more of a Marvel fan than DC, but it's a good, it's something fun to get into. It can be, now, be forewarned, it can be expensive. Appreciate the follow there, my friend. Appreciate that. Oh man, I gotta set up the stuff on this one. Usually it would be an animation for when you follow. Sorry about that. I haven't set it up for this setup yet for this type of scene. And this type of I would recommend if you're into this, just know if you're buying Key Comics, it can be very expensive. There's comics out there that can range from, if you're lucky and you find someone selling some comics and don't realize what they have, you can get them for cheap, like $20-$30, which I've had happen. And then you have the higher end grade of comics that can cost you thousands. So, for me personally, I try to buy ones somewhere between the range, of course, $10 to $500. I think the most I've ever spent on a comic was $200. My most valuable one is I'm actually getting it graded right now. Sending it off to be graded. I got 4 of them actually. I sent off just to get graded recently. Probably my most valuable one would probably be the first appearance of the Juggernaut, issue number 12 of the Uncanny X-Men. I won't get that one back for about another 4 weeks, and I'll be doing a stream on that one as well when it comes back. When all my comics start getting graded and come back, and I'll be doing those more. But that would probably be my most valuable one. So the grade I think was pretty high. I just don't really know yet. I heard Nicolas Cage has a really valuable one. Possibly. I don't know. I haven't heard that myself. It really just comes down to, I mean, the things it comes down to when it comes to a high grade comic and how valuable it is, the grading on it. So if it's like a 9.8, you'll almost never see one with a 10, because that's like mint, came off the assembly line, perfect, nothing wrong with it. So you'll never see one of those. And if you do, it's like the hardest thing to find. Rarity of it, to how basically how rare is that comic is, there are only 2 or 3 left in the world. And what keystone is it? What key is it in the series? Is it a first appearance? Is it a key moment? Those are the 3 things that really determine how rare a comic itself is and how valuable. For instance, if you were to come across somebody with a amazing fantasy, like the very first appearance of Spider-Man, it could be a straight 1, and it would still be worth thousands of dollars because they're so hard to find in good condition. Yeah, they're hard to find, period. There's a Doctor Strange I was actually thinking about purchasing at one point. First appearance of Doctor Strange, it was a grade of a 1, and they wanted $700 for it. So, I mean, to me, I try to buy stuff a little bit higher grade, but you know, Nicolas Cage copy of Action Comics #1 featuring the first. Oh, I can believe it. Yeah, then I can believe that. Yeah, yeah. If it's a first appearance of Superman, yeah. And a lot of people, like a lot of celebrities and all that, have those type of, you know, again, they have the money, so they could easily drop it. I mean, he could probably buy, you know, I'm sure he probably has every issue #1. I mean, honestly, if when you got, again, it's one of these things, when you got the money to spend, you can drop it. You can get really high grades. Like for instance, if you go to eBay, you'll see like the first Avengers for $10,000. You'll see, you know, again, this is also grading purposes. You know, if it could be, you know, if it's a 5.5, you might see them for 10,000. A 9 could be 20, 30,000. So if you got the money, you know, buying high grade comics ain't nothing to nobody. Give me my math homework now. Watch. Oh yeah, no worries, dude. And it's what it comes down to, dude. Is just, I mean, again, like me, I like getting high grade stuff, within reason. I try to get high grade stuff within reason. I just don't. I'm just not dropping $30,000 on a comic. I don't have that type of cash on me on hand right now. If I did, sure, but. And I usually try to, you know, again, you go to a comic book store. Of course, you're going to buy comics with a, you know, there are websites I use that I can pretty much tell what something is going to be worth when I look at it grading wise, and I compare that to what the comic book store is offering. Because you know, sometimes you can go to a comic book store, dude, and they'll rate something that's really only worth $50. They'll say, oh, it's worth 150, or they want 150 for it. I'm like, I'm not giving you $100 for an extra. For a comic that's only worth $50, I can understand, you know, they need to make money, and I get that. So if it was like $10, $20 more on top of that comic, that's understandable. That's reasonable. They've got to make a profit. They're not going to sell something that they make no money on, because they buy comics and they got to resell it. So just like it's like a pawn shop, they got to make money. But when you get into this type of stuff and you start buying comics of keys and high grade stuff, you've got to know what you're looking at. You have to know what you're looking at. I mean, you know, definitely make sure you get the key comic before you spend $130 on something. And what type of grade is it? And you may not be spot on, but if you can get to a rough, you know, a good average of like 1 to 2, you know, what give one, take one, or 2 of a comic, you're in pretty good shape, and you know you won't overspend. And I've gone to comic book stores who they literally didn't know what they had. They had no idea what they had on hand. I recently bought 2 comics that are probably worth about $70 a piece for $10. They were just sitting in the bins. It was old. Now they were older comics. They were first appearances, but they were older comics. Condition wise, not too bad. So that's why I was able to kind of figure out the grade on it and how valuable it kind of was. But you just got to kind of know what you're looking at and what you're looking for, because a lot of people really don't. I mean, of course, you know, you have the internet, but a lot of comic book stores who are owned by older gentlemen, they're looking for the more like first appearance of Iron Man, Spider-Man, any of the Avengers. They don't really look for second grade characters like Cloak and Dagger, certain items. You know, that's the type of stuff you gotta look for when you're buying stuff. Sometimes when you go to these comic book stores. But yeah, that's just some of my personal experience with doing this type of stuff. And you can also, you know, you can do Craigslist or Facebook for garage sales. People will sell stuff they don't realize they're having. They'll just see it's a comic book, or they have a comic book collection and they want to get rid of all of it because their kids left, or someone passed away, or they bought something and it just had a bunch of comics they don't know what they have, so they'll just try and dump it. That's the way to come across some. Not all the time, but sometimes it's a good way to come across something valuable. You just have to kind of pick and choose and look at see what they got and see what you can find. And I've had that. I've got some rare comics that I've had that happen where, like for instance, that Juggernaut I was telling you about. I got that one for $45, and like I said, I'm getting it graded right now, but it's a few $100. So $45 versus a couple $100 ain't bad. So that's pretty much right there in the nutshell of some comic book stuff. So if you have any more questions about it, just let me know. I'd be more than happy to try and help you answer some. And again, something fun to do and something to look into doing if you enjoyed Marvel superhero stuff. Like I said, get into it. And if you don't, I mean, again, they have, cheap stuff you can get. And if you, kind of help your way get into it a little bit more, see if you really like it. Like this one, like this Nova one, like this first appearance of Nova, sorry, it's a little bad. There we go. So like this one right here, the first appearance of Nova, I got. I haven't read it myself. I've read online like the storyline because I really don't like opening up these rare ones like this too much. So they don't get torn up or bent or anything like that. That's why I also put it in a case. But yeah, that's right there. That's about it right there. So not too bad, honestly. Next week we'll be talking about trying to decide because my graders won't get in for probably June because I sent them off to CBCS, which is there's two gradings right now. Well, three, but the main two right now are CGC and CBCS. I've sent 4 of my comics off to CBCS, and they won't be back in till late June, early July, because it takes up somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks for them to come back in. How much is the cost of grading, and how much does it increase the value? Very good question. Very good question, my friend. So cost-wise, it depends on who you're sending it to. So that's the first. Let me just go ahead and lay that out. It depends on who you're sending it to. I haven't had anything graded by CGC before. I've looked at their pricing, and it's originally. So let me just give you some backstory on this, and then I'll kind of go into that. It's kind of hand in hand what I'm explaining. So originally there was only one grading company that did comics because originally no one really, as kids growing up, people never really thought of comics being really valuable. It was just something, kids got, they played with, they opened up, they, tore the stuff out, whatever. No one really cared. Then people started to realize how valuable it was. So a company came out called CGC. It was the only grading company that would officially grade comics. Pricing, they have a tier system that basically goes off the line of what year the comic was made, and how valuable it is. So that will determine how much you have to pay to get them to grade it for you. And that was the only one who did it for years, many years. Well, then, from my understanding from one of the gentlemen I was talking to, the owner of CGC actually, he was with a partner. Well, the partners apparently, I guess, got in a dispute or something, and they broke off. So the original head partner who broke off went off to create another company called CBCS. So you had CGC, which was the top dog forever, and CBS, which was the underdog. Well, as time has gone on, CBCS has been rising up, and people have been noticing it to be a lot more official. Because they've learned that CGC, as the top dog as they were, have learned they're not as great as they should be. Reason being is because with CGC, you would have to get your comic renewed. Basically, it had a 2-year authentication on it. And after 2 years, that grading would no longer count. So you'd have to send it off again and get regraded again. Well, who wants to get a comic regraded after 2 years and spend more money to get it regraded? It's kind of like, I know what my comic's valued at. And then, of course, even if you send it off to get regraded, it could drop in value. It could drop from, let's say you have it at 9. Well, they could say, oh, well, these 3 guys graded it last time, said it was 9, but these three guys graded it again. Even though it's in our plastic seal, we're going to drop it to an 8.5. Well, I've just paid you to regrade my comic because I had to pay you to get it officially regraded, and you dropped my value, even though you graded it as high. So a lot of people were just kind of like, no, that's just stupid. Why would I spend money on that to have you regrade it to do that to me. So what CBCS does is they grade it once. So that's it. You get it once, it's permanent, it's done. That's what it's graded at. Of course, if you really wanted to get it sent off to get regraded by them, they will do it. And of course, it will cost you money, of course. But there is no 2-year or it only lasts for 5 years. It's you seal, you're done. This is what you got a grade for. We'll regrade if you want us to down the road, but it's fine. And they do us, and that's why after people started noticing that, and CGC was kind of like, it started becoming widely kind of found out that CGC was undergrading stuff. They were kind of over. It was like a big blowout, and that's why a lot of people were like, "We'll go to CBCS," and that's why they've become more officially known for their grading and as valuable. Okay, so that was just the backstory on that to kind of help you understand a little bit about that. So now to the cost. So and the value. So for instance, cost-wise, again, it's done in a tier system. So for instance, my Juggernaut I sent off, that cost me $65 to get graded because it was a much older comic. It fell within that time frame of, I can't remember. I used to have a thing that would tell me I could probably pull it up online, but it was here. Actually, give me 1 second. I can actually pull up the year on the grading system on it. Yes. Because that is actually a very good question, especially for people who are wondering about that. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see if they have a link. Here it is. Let me see. Grading. Pricing. Alright. Let me see. So now also to do this, you have to be a member as well to do this. Let's see. Sorry, I'm looking here. It's a lot of yes. Unfortunately, I'm not an official member. Here we go. Here we go. All right, so their tier system right here, from what I'm looking at online right now, 1975 to present, which would be considered modern, is and of course, again, this is also if you're a member, and I forgot what the cost is for membership, but so let's try to read this correctly here. Okay, so it's based on the year it was made and the value of it. So you've actually got to make sure you value the comic correctly. If it's not valued correctly, they'll say, okay, hey, you didn't price it correctly for us for your pre-grade, and it was valued at X amount of money. We need more money from you. So I'll go ahead and lay out what they have right now. So from 1975 to present, and let's just go ahead and put it as you being a member of their website. It would cost $16, and this is for values up to $250. Pre-75 for members is $27, and again valued at $250. Now, if it's more than that, and it's up to valued at $400, up to $400, it would cost you $30 to send to get graded. Then after that, it kind of accumulates. So the highest one, I'll just go ahead and give you the highest amount. If it's valued up to $4,000, and you're a member, it would cost you $81 to get it graded. And then and it kind of just accumulates. It just keeps going up from there. So at a certain point, it just kind of keeps going up. So now, if you can find a comic book store that's an official grader for you, and they're an authorized grader, like I did, they'll pre-grade the book. They'll say, okay, it's this is what it's probably going to be estimated at. This is how much it's going to cost you, and then they'll you pay them, they'll ship it, they'll pay. They'll put the insurance on it. So if something happens to it during the shipping that gets lost or whatever, you'll get paid the value of what the comic they graded it as their estimate. So like the Juggernaut I sent off. I can't remember. I think they got graded at like 500. I think. So if it gets, it could be worth more when it comes in when it gets graded, but he pre-graded it as a value of 500. So if it gets lost in the mail, I get $500 from insurance. So that's my payout from it. So just something else to kind of look at. Now, increasing value-wise, that really depends on the comic and the grade of it. So, prime example. For instance, here I can actually say about this one here. My phone's dead. So if I were to get this one here, the first Nova graded. Pull this up here and I can tell you right now. Of course, now this is online. This is an online source I use. Not 100%. Don't ever think anything's ever 100% for grading purposes, because what it really comes down to being is how much is someone willing to spend. I mean, you have someone, you may have a 9.0, but it really comes down to how much are you willing to sell it for, and how much is someone willing to buy it. So always think of that when you're selling something. Let's see, Nova number 1. Let's see. Here we go. First appearance of Nova, Origins. So with this one, if I were to sell it, so if I were to get it graded and sell it at a, I bought it for $60. It's probably an 8 at best. If I got it graded, it would cost, I'd get like maybe $82 from it. Not a huge jump, because again, it's not a. He has a first appearance, and it's an origin for a major character, but he's not really. It's not a huge character in itself. Now, with all the Marvel release movies and stuff like that, and actually Nova himself was actually supposed to be in game, but he didn't make the appearance. But they cut his character out. But when his movie does come out, these pricings could change drastically. He could go from, the value of it could just skyrocket, because then everyone's going to want the book. Everyone's going to want, because the movie came out, it's increased. It's become he's become a popular character. Everyone wants to see him. He's the next spot. It could be like that. So the movie, when he comes out, could affect it. Now, if you increase the grade on a comic, though, like if this was like a 9.6, an ungraded copy would be like 150. A graded copy of a 9.6 would be 400. So as you see, it dropped up almost $250 by getting it graded. But that would be a higher tier of a comic, better condition comic. So, and that's with a lot of comics, though, key comics. Lower grades, grading really doesn't affect the price too much. It might just equal it out a little bit. But when you get into like the 9s, anything above like an 8.5 and up, getting it graded will instantly make the price jump up on it. Anything lower than that may increase it, may just keep it the same. It's a hit or miss. But like myself, if you take it to an authorized grader, then he'll ship it off. He'll tell you, hey, at least most would tell you, that comic's worth getting, or no, or that comic's worth grading, or you know what, if you get it graded, it's really not going to do anything to the value. It'll just stay the same. If you want to get it graded, you can, but there's really no point. So, and I've got some like that, some comics, some key first appearances that really there is no point in getting them graded, because you're not gonna get an increase in the value. So stuff like that to kind of look out for. Again, this is something, if you do get into into comic books, it's worth looking into. Um, checking out what you get, looking at what you're getting, checking out stuff. Make sure what you're getting is actually worth something. So this is some stuff to look into, my friend, or Tommy Kinchi too. You have any other questions you want to ask now? More than free right now. I mean, I got a little more time before we call it. So if you have any other questions, just let me know. Also, you can go to my Discord as well. I do have a Discord for this type of talk and chat. So if you have any questions you want to ask about any other comic books or any other rare stuff, or just in general, some questions about grading values and stuff like that, I'm more than welcome to talk to you about it. And for everyone else that's just tuning in as well, this will be a weekly thing I do where I do pull out one of my rare comics and have a chat about one of my rare ones I got. So, yep, for today's stream we did talk about the first issue of The Man Called Nova, The Origin, number 1. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. And you can also follow me. You can click that follow button to see when I'm on. I do stream other games. I do stream Rainbow Six Siege and some dungeon crawlers, and I will be doing the new Minecraft dungeons here very soon as well. So be on the lookout for when I start streaming that. Next week we'll be talking about another key first appearance comic, Sunday at 8. So make sure to be there for that. If you have any questions or any suggestions in itself, or just anything you want to talk about, you can hit me up in my Discord. It's in the it's at the bottom. You click on that and follow me on there. I've got I got 2 different sections. One for gaming suggestions, another one for comic book stuff or anything geek related. So yeah. With that, I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. If you have any suggestions on how to improve this stream, be more than welcome to add that as well, and we can talk about that as well. So I will see y'all next week on the next stream. I will probably be putting a voting also in my Discord. So if you have for 1 or 2 comics, if you want to have any questions, or if you want, let y'all decide on which comic you want to discuss, I'll add that as well. So I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Have a wonderful and safe Memorial Day tomorrow, and I will see y'all next time. Have a good one.